Good afternoon, David.
How you doing?
Not bad. Madam Director's just delivering a coffee, and then I'll get Facebook.
I'm on my wheelchair here, so I can't get any higher.
There it goes. We'll just need to get used to looking down at you, shorty.
There you go.
Yeah. We'll just need to get used to looking down at you, shorty. Right, that's Facebook on board. I better get the chat up. Where we go? We've got Wee Bird, we've got Akis, we've got Jim Stevens. We've got Rebecca.
What we up to in the total? The number of people now?
86.
Oh, bloody hell, man, that's excellent.
And thanks to the moderators, Mad Monk and Alistair.
Aye, thank you, Mad Monk and Alistair.
Hi, Gingers. Let's see if we'll get any Facebookers in yet. Scroll down. Yep, and we've got Doug Copley in as first Facebooker.
Aye, Doug. How you doing?
I see John Sweeney's in. Is that John Sweeney? Is it really
John
Sweeney?
John's an admin on Scotland Now, and he's excellent. Some of the stuff that he does, brilliant. So
aye.
A big thank you to Doug.
Right, we're up to our 100 mark, David.
Yep.
So it's the two Davies on the 10th to the 4th, 2024.
I know we always try to look upbeat and all the rest of it as we come onto a programme, but to be honest with you, I'm feeling dreadful.
I'm feeling angry, David.
And why don't you explain it, Davey? On you go.
Well, I'll go with the headline.
Yeah.
And that is John Swinney denies the democratic will of the SNP. Now, David, as you know, I'm a Democrat to my toes.
Yeah.
And I know some people on here think that we are SNP acolytes.
Yeah.
But most people on here know that when the SNP do something we don't agree with, you and I are the first ones out the stall to lay down our opinions. Now, the headline in the paper and the story, which has got you and I fuming, is John Swinney drops independence from the ballot paper. Now, to let
he already had the full agreement of the Electoral Commission to actually put SNP for independence
on the ballot paper.
On the ballot paper, right? And
or vote SNP for independence on the ballot paper. Two options.
He's literally he's shot at the bits and thrown it
Elizabeth. Fee Gates. Now, the point, David, that's got you and I angry, isn't his excuses on why he's done what he's done. We'll get to that in a minute. What's got you and I angry is we laid it out clear in a programme that if he wanted to divert from the 2021 manifesto, or if he wanted to change the route to independence, then he would have to come before the party and put it as a proposition to the members to vote on. Now, last year at conference, when Humza said he was going to put this on the ballot paper, a majority of MPs would call it. As you know, the MPs watered it down. But what we did all agree to, and we all voted on it, was that SNP for independence would be on the ballot paper. And that line 1, paragraph 1 of the manifesto would be a vote for the SNP as a vote for Scottish independence, to make sure it wasn't ambiguous in the minds of the Unionists in Westminster.
And as you said before we came on air, that's us, we're 2 weeks into the campaign, and I've heard very little about independence from John Swinney.
No, but what we have seen is a lot of backtracking, and this is further backtracking. But what annoys me is he did it on the sly. On Friday, when all the candidates and what was going to be in the ballot papers had to be declared, who changed what the party had agreed to put in that ballot paper? That's the question that's bothered me. What's bothered me is Mr. Swinney is acting like a unionist and just making policy up on the hoof. That's not how we do things in a democratic political party like the SNP.
We are democratic, simple as that. We want something, we vote on it. Simple as that. And if nobody votes for it, then it gets thrown out. But if we do vote for it, we bloody well expect it to be there.
That's not what's got me angry, and I will be demanding answers from my local representatives and my local party convener. I want to know who gave John Swinney the right to deny the democratic will of the party.
Well,
We
if it was
voted to put SNP for Independence on the ballot paper, and he has vetoed it without coming to the party.
Yeah.
He didn't even mention that he was going to veto it.
Yeah.
He didn't bring it up to the party. He just did it. And that shocks me for John Swinney. I'm a Democrat, David.
Yeah.
Now, people say that the SNP and the Yes side didn't respect the 2014 vote. Aye, we did. But what we recognised was that just because something didn't win the first time doesn't mean you shouldn't continue to make the argument.
Yeah.
So we accepted that the country had voted no, but we also agreed we were going to go forward trying to convince them to vote yes. That's fine.
I'm second.
What John Swinney did was anti-democratic, but we're talking at a party level here and not a country level.
Yeah.
We, the party, gave the leadership the mandate to put SNP for Independence on the ballot paper.
Yeah.
And they, the party, have decided to ignore us. And I want to know who made this decision.
The party haven't ignored us because we are the party. It's the ones that we have elected into leadership. Yeah.
He's taken on himself to act like a dictator.
Yeah, correct.
Now, apparently Norrie's getting up in the SNP. Well, we can get up never, we get up in the SNP. What's interesting going forward was John Swinney said that they say the independence, he said the reason why he's did it is because the foremost things in people's mind right now on the independence, it's austerity, cost of living crisis and Brexit. And what he's saying is going to convince people that the way to get out of this mess is by independence. And he says he'll put independence at the core of the manifesto and at the heart of this campaign. We're 2 weeks in with 4 weeks to go and I haven't heard a fucking peep.
I'm into mathematics. I like algebra. A plus B plus C minus I equals nothing. A plus B plus C plus I equals freedom. Simple as that. That's austerity, Brexit, and cost of living. Plus, thanks, Alexa. Plus the independence. We're okay with freedom. We can actually deal with it. We can deal with all those things, and they can be dealt with quickly. Yeah.
As I say, but you're going to have to change footing pretty quick. But I'm no upset about the fact that the word's not going to appear in the ballot paper. I'm upset at the fact that somebody thought they had the right to override the democratic vote of the party members.
Well,
that shakes my idea.
I think in actual fact we should be throwing this onto the people that are watching and saying, if you are an SNP member, the same as he and I are, you should be contacting your representative within the party, yeah, and asking why this has happened. And if you don't like the answer, let them know about it.
Now, Chris is right. The point that John was making is that these things are all linked, and the only way you take it is independence. But as I say, I'm not interested in the word and what was going to be on the ballot paper. I'm interested in why he or somebody round about him thought they had the power to change things without going back to the people who gave them a mandate to do it in the first place.
Absolutely right. And I'll tell you the next test, which is going to decide whether I remain here or not after this election, is what goes on in the manifesto. If in the manifesto he doesn't put independence at every part of it all the way through, then that's it. I've had enough. I'm not going to hold him to literally independence every way through. That's pretty stupid. But what I'm saying is, if he doesn't create independence as an escape route from
Absolutely.
austerity, Brexit, and the cost of living crisis, then what's the point?
As I say,
What is the
David,
point?
as you know, as you said the last time we were on here, I'm one of the most democratic people that you know. And I believe in the structures of the party.
Yeah.
And I want to know who it was that thought they had the authority to bypass a membership.
But what good's that going to do you?
Well, I
Getting
mean,
to know,
I'll tell
no,
you what good it's going
no,
to
but
do.
David, getting to know a name doesn't actually help. It's like the guy that blew the whistle, seemingly, on Nicola and her husband, right? We know who he is. We could tell everybody that we know who he is, but knowing that doesn't actually help. The damage
I
is
think
done.
I'm not caring about the damage done to what the potential damage to the movement might be. He's got time to fix that. I've said that repeatedly. That time's ebbing away quick. What I'm
Yeah.
interested in is who thought they had the authority to override the will of the party.
All right.
That's what I
Fine.
want to know, David, because that person is not a Democrat and they have no place within a Democratic Party.
But if they're in the ring of steel round about the leadership in the SNP, if they're part of that, then they need to be removed. It's as simple as that.
Anybody that's
Because
advi-
because
whoever
because
advice
if that's the advice that they are giving to the leadership, then their advice is flawed, as you've just said, regarding democracy.
but
Yeah.
it goes a step further than that. The mere fact that John thought he could fucking just take that advice and do it without going back to the membership. That's the bit that bothers me, David. I made
Well,
it quite clear here. If he wants to change the manifesto commitments made in 2021, hold an election. If he wants to change the route to independence, bring it to the floor of the conference and we'll discuss it.
yes.
He's changed the route to independence, or what was to be done, what we agreed at the last conference without going to the membership. That is not on.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll give you that one, right? But I do say that once you've dealt with that person and you've made sure that you got rid or pulled them out of that line of information that's going to leadership, then what I say to you is we need to now fix it. And what we're talking about now, how many weeks have we got before the actual general election? How many
Yeah,
actual
you're right.
working weeks? How many working weeks have we actually got? How many useful weeks have we got before the
Four.
general election?
Four.
4. Correct.
Now
That's
I'm going to address Chris's point here, David. He says, I've been a proud member of our party, but I ain't the brink.
yeah.
Now, I ain't on the
So,
brink of leaving it. I want to
yeah.
find the heart of the problem and fix it.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that democracy holds sway within the party.
Yeah.
Now, what I will say is, whoever's advising John, what John did was an anti-democratic move, and he done it on the fly, and that undermines my trust in him.
What if it was an act by John Swinney without any advice, and he took it on himself
Well,
to
the
bring that
NEC
in?
must have been in on it because, after all, what was submitted to the 32 electoral offices across Scotland and the council areas was SNP only in the ballot paper. There's no way John made that decision by himself. But the
Well,
party members had already decided what was going on that ballot paper. Who the fuck were these people to say otherwise?
okay, right.
Now, to me, democracy has not held sway within the party at this point in time.
Yeah.
And the party's upper echelon are acting out with the way the
Well, I mean,
party's going to operate.
how do you think Alex Salmon would have felt
I
way,
know
way
how they
back,
feel.
way back in 2011 at that blooming thing, if he couldn't have Alex Salmon for First Minister, if you remember. That
Yes,
was on the ballot paper. And
yes.
I'll tell you what, that did win him that election.
It won
Seriously.
him that majority.
Yeah. So,
what John's doing is
how would
unfathomable.
he have felt if that had suddenly been removed without his say so?
No, but
Instead
Alec,
of
what did
Alex
Alex say about it? He said, "Oh, good. That's going to split the vote and drive people to
Right.
Alba." The problem with
That's
that
right.
is it will split the vote Labour through the middle, and it will set this movement back a decade, 2 decades.
25 years.
Lorraine, don't do it again. Naughty step, right enough. Folks, stop being late. It's rude. Berating the audience. No, as I say, Mr. Salmon piped up and he said, "Oh, this will just send people driven into your arms." Aye, but they're still not going to win anything. All it'll do is split the vote, let the Labour Party through the middle, and let's be fair, David, that'll set the movement way back.
Oh, aye.
And what Alex said was, it would appear John's quite happy to settle for a comfortable win, rather than a stalking win and a drive towards independence.
If it was done,
Yeah, well, let's address the members of
David,
the here.
let's have it. Let me over. If it was done with the idea of, oh, we're frightening the horses here, like we've actually seen in the past with certain decisions, right? I would say that's just stupidity. As you've said, if a politician tries to be all things to all people, he ends up being nothing.
A failure.
Yeah. So what we need to do is we need to have a politician, a leader that actually puts independence front and centre and says, you want rid of all this shit that we're going through? Vote for independence. Vote SNP and we'll get you independence. That's the kind of leader I want to see.
That's the kind we had. So they had to bring him down.
Yeah.
That's what Holmes it was.
Yeah.
Right, but as I say, now let's get to the political strategy of it, right? Yep, SNP are still going to win this election, but it will probably reduce the majority they will have.
Yeah.
I mean, we see in the latest Survation poll the SNP taking a bounce. That'll be the Swinney bounce.
Yeah.
We've seen business confidence grow again and things like that as well. So there is good sides to John's leadership. But this one shocked me. I thought John was a Democrat. And I thought he'd respect the parties, the members' will.
I thought he was a yeser.
Yeah, well, as far as I know, we'll wait until we see the manifesto, and then we'll make a decision based on how this election goes and how you and I advance forward. Don't want to put a downer on it. These are internal party problems that need to be sorted out. These have got nothing to do with the Westminster election. So it's still eyes on the prize vote SNP while we within the party sort this mess out.
Yeah.
Because we can't have the leadership override the membership. That's not on.
Absolutely. It's that the SNP are a party from the base upwards. That's it. It's the base upwards. And if it no longer becomes that, and it starts to be whereby the whole thing is held by a few people at the top, forget it. I'm not interested.
Well, as I say, these are internal party mechanisms which need to be investigated. If you're a party member, folks, I want you to go to your party convener, your local MSP or MP if they are SNP, and demand answers on who authorised the leadership to change what the party voted for.
And let's be very, very clear on this. We're questioning is the fact that that had SNP for independence or vote SNP for independence as one of the options on the ballot paper, and it is now been struck off, and it's just going to be SNP, which means that it won't say what we need it to say.
Right, we need to sort this one out, David, because this is madness. All right, I was given SNP my vote this election based on promise of de facto. I'm now undecided. I'm afraid we don't get to be undecided. There won't be de facto unless the SNP win.
That's right.
As I say, the problem we've got at the moment is an internal problem with communication between the party leadership and the membership. And at this point in time, it looks as if the leadership are acting like a fucking dictatorship because we'd already gave them a direction on what was to be on the ballot paper.
Mm-hmm.
The party voted on it was to be on the ballot paper. The independence was to be on the ballot paper. The SNP then went to the Electoral Commission with options. The Electoral Commission approved 2 options. That was the end of it. One of the 2 options should have been in that ballot paper. On Friday, when the submissions were made, neither of the 2 options were on the ballot paper, and somebody at the top of this party overruled the membership and left it off. And it looks like it was John himself because he was justifying it and on an interview with the BBC. And that's no on. You can't have the leadership ignore the membership. It cannot be done. This isn't a unionist party. We don't make policy on the hoof. And the policy that we put in the manifesto before the people was decided by the members of the party. No, the bloody leadership of the party. It's a democratic party. It's how it works. So if you're a member of this party, get onto your convener and ask who the hell gave permission for Mr. Swinney and the party executive to change what the party wanted on that ballot paper.
What the party had voted for.
Yes. In the meantime, folks, eyes on the prize. This is an internal problem that needs sorted out internally. It should not affect the direction of the election. Although it might depend on what's in this manifesto. If it's no line 1, paragraph 1, a vote for the SNPs, a vote for independence, which was what we voted for at the conference to be line 1, page 1 of that manifesto, then the SNP's in trouble. Because it means they've got a hierarchy that are acting out with the will of the membership. And that's anti-democratic.
Yeah. The SNP are not John Swinney. It's not Humza Yousaf. It's not Nicola Sturgeon. It's not anybody, right? It is the members that make up the SNP. Scottish National Party. Yeah.
Right, let's move on. We Dougie Ross has made the news in Merlin Way this week, as I know.
Yeah. It's in actual fact, the amount of column inches that have been wasted telling everybody exactly what he's done to his best pal, and how much money he's blooming purloined for paying for parking at an airport whilst he went to a Celtic football game to act as linesman. Yeah, it's dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. But go on, David, you pick up the start of this as well again.
Well, as we know, folks, this all started last week when David Duguid was deselected as the MP, the Conservative Association's choice to run in Aberdeenshire North and Moray East, in one of the new constituencies. Now, they deselected him 2 days before candidates had to be submitted to the Electoral Commission. Basically, the deadline was on Friday past, folks. Okay. That meant that the Conservatives then had to find a candidate quick, and Dross put himself forward. Unfortunately, Dross sits on that deselection and selection committee, so it's definitely grubby.
Grubby. Flippin' heck. It's more than that.
This leads to Dross stating that if he wins that seat, he will stand down as an MSP and as the Scottish leader. Now, folks, there won't be a by-election. He's a list MSP, which means that if he resigns as the MSP for his constituency up there in Moray, the next one on the list will just go straight into the Scottish Parliament. No by-election, no choice.
Yep.
But the reason why Dross has had to say he will resign as an MSP and as party leader in Scotland is because the party, as a wider body, have looked on in disdain at what we Dross did to work his way into that Westminster seat.
I mean, I can't put myself in the shoes of a Tory, right? But you've got to look at it from this point of view. Here's a guy that was an MP for a certain area, right? And he becomes ill. so ill, he ends up in the hospital, right? And seemingly a pal who is sitting on the board,
Selection committee.
the selection committee, right? Deselects him whilst he's lying in his hospital bed. Yeah, probably dragging air through his right. And it's like this guy's blooming taking the ball away from his feet.
So
Something
that's
like
what
that.
he's been in there 6 weeks. Apparently, he's only a couple of weeks away from full recovery.
Yeah.
You know, he would have been fit before the end of. He just wouldn't
Yeah.
have been to campaign in normal mode. They'd had to do most of it online.
So what is the campaigners for the area would have picked up on that? They would have dealt with it. Sorry, he's in hospital more, but he gets out in a week's time or whatever, right?
Aye.
And that's how they would have done it.
Well, the thing is,
Yeah.
the other thing is, the local constituency, Conservative Association are pissed off. They
Yeah.
want to do good stoning.
Yeah.
So how hard are they going to campaign for Dross? Not very.
It's not going to happen. You might,
But of
you
course,
might get,
the
you might
reason
get,
why his expenses scandal has come to light is because the party's pissed off with him, so they're trying to shame him and get rid of him.
aye. I can see his wife's going to campaign for him, right? But that's about it. You know, is there any wives that are of age to be able to campaign?
I don't
Maybe
know.
they'll.
If you never know, he might have a couple of toddlers that can have round
Aye.
about and get a wee bit of sympathy
Aye.
vote. Vote for
Aye,
me.
well, there you go.
I need the money to bring these two up, sort of thing. You know.
But it's dreadful. It's absolutely, it's so bad, right? So, right, let's look at what the man has had in terms of remuneration, right? First off, we'll look at the Holyrood one, right? He gets, is it £59,000 plus another 10 for being the party, the
No,
leader?
I think the basic salary is 69, then he gets 10 for being.
So it's 79. He's hitting 80 grand
But I think
coming
he
out
only
of that.
gets 60% of his Holyrood salary because he's also an MP.
Yes, okay. So fair enough. He gets 60% of that. Plus he gets all the expenses that goes with that for setting up an office.
No, he
Yeah.
doesn't. No, he doesn't.
He doesn't at all.
No,
Right.
the expenses for setting up the office, he doesn't get that for both governments. He will
Right.
get stipends for the Scottish government to help cover the workload. He might need a couple of extra researchers because he's running
Yes.
2 constituencies,
Right.
but he doesn't get the full whack. What he does get is the full Westminster salary, 89 grand or whatever it is. He gets all his food paid for,
Yep.
TV licence, Sky, all that shit, all paid for subscriptions.
Lighting and gas. Gas
Light
and
and gas,
electricity.
telephone.
Yep. And then over and above that,
Second home.
what about the iPad for watching football games?
I think it's paid for by Westminster as well.
So and you'll get the full expenses from Westminster. All right. So
Anyway,
at the end of the day, what he did was he's actually went to a few football games, like a Celtic game that took place at Celtic Park, and he got the parking charge of £43 paid for by you and me, the taxpayer in Scotland. Yeah.
Aye.
Yeah.
Hold on, Susanna, I'll move out the road. Just tell everybody else in the naughty step to bunch up and don't burn your arse in the candle.
I can't see the candle. Where's the candle?
Yeah, it's there.
Where?
It's there!
Can't
Next to
make
the
it out,
traffic
man.
cone. Believe me, it's there. Right, we need to move on. Lib Dem candidate compares fighting the SNP in general election to battling the Nazis on D-Day. Hamish Taylor, who's up against Alan Smith in the new constituency seat of Stirling and Strathallan,
Yep.
has apologised and deleted his tweet.
Yeah.
Now, this is just merry, this sort of culture.
Yeah.
That's going on that road.
It's what they call us. They call us that you can hear them saying it. Oh, it's a bloody Nats again, right? So then they extend that a wee bit. Oh, it's Nazis. You know what I mean?
Aye.
And that's what he's done. He's carried it on to a tweet, and people have went, oh, that's going to be it far.
But these people think they're scoring against the independent supporters. But David, in the preamble before we come on, you reminded us, basically, we went through a list of names until it hit us, and that is that while they were calling us a nasty Nazis on the internet back in the day, the term cybernat was coined.
Yeah,
And the
that's
majority
right.
has actually took it up as a badge of honour and get T-shirts
Oh,
made and things
yeah,
like that.
of which I was personally very, very proud of because of the number of blooming Facebook groups that I set up on the back of that
Aye.
to get people to actually get into Facebook and make it happen. We had 75% of online information or online support. 75%. If that had been used as the referendum, right? We'd have won hands down. 75%.
They never asked us to come.
75%.
They never asked us to conduct a campaign, David.
Yeah.
You and I have been online cyber warriors for a long time now.
Yes, that's
And when
right.
the term cybernat came along, that came out of the Nazi thing.
Yeah.
Except it was cyber Nazis. I
Yeah,
mean, we just took it.
I was going to do all the the merchandising. I was got for babies. I was going to do cyber nappies.
Scotland did it. They had
No,
a
no,
t-shirt
no,
that
no,
said
no,
cybernat.
no. For babies, you could have cyber nappies, right? And things like that. It was wonderful. Yeah.
As I say, Wings Over Scotland, they ran with it. Big
Aye.
Ronnie Anderson got me a t-shirt that said Vile Cybernat on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as I say, this is just the Scottish version of the culture war, David. It's a dirty election.
Yeah.
It's shown itself to be a dirty election so far.
Definitely is.
I mean,
Wow.
the main two lies for the big two so far have been 2,000 tax rises for the Sunak side and GB Energy for the Labour side.
Yeah.
I mean, two big ploys and two big lies to be perpetrated on the people to scare them into voting one way or another.
Yeah.
One a carrot, one a stick, and both a lie.
People will not know that it's lies that are being perpetrated. There'll be people out there that watch the BBC or whatever, and that's their main source of information. And they'll go, oh, that's quite good. We'll get cheaper electricity because of that and cheaper gas. No.
Jen, I never use bad language, dear. Wow.
What's that?
Apparently, Jen and I F and C too much. I never swear. You ever heard me swear, David?
Yes.
Oh, you terrible fibber. Folks,
I've actually heard them. This is off camera. I've actually heard them swear that many times you'd think it was punctuation.
Yes. And thank you, Lorraine. Lorraine went and checked to see if she was still registered to vote, and she'd been kicked off, folks. So make sure you're still in the electoral register.
Yes. What's the kill date? You've got to be registered by
18th at 23:59.
Yeah, well, I've got to get on to the local Western Bartonshire and ask them for either a postal vote or where Leslie can vote for me.
Well, you better get a move on.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get a move on.
You've got 8 days.
David, I've been dealing with a lot with my health.
I know you've been dealing with a lot. I do, but people remember voter ID as well. If you don't have any, postal vote, proxy vote, get on it now.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I'll actually air something online that's a bit personal. It's like I have not managed to do a VAT return for the past few months or past few quarters. And it's like I'm now at the stage where they're starting to send me fines and all the rest of it, right? And I can't do a damn thing about it because each time I try to get the hold of the VAT office, it just rings and rings and rings and rings on hold. And I get nowhere. Half an hour later, I'm still waiting. And then what happens is a nurse turns up at the door that wants to redo all my stitches and all the rest of it. So I've got to put the phone down and then try again. It's not happening for me as far as that's concerned. It really isn't.
No.
Anyway.
Right, we better move on because we've got an awful lot covering. We've only been talking about wee Dougie and John Swinney and it's taken up half a show.
I know.
Nicola Sturgeon to become pundit at the election as well as Trump.
Yeah, you know, I remember the ITV desk that they had, both at the referendum and also at the last election, and you can see them all sitting round, yeah, and it's like it's not a good situation. What'll happen? She'll spend half the night talking about or what she can talk about regarding the investigation against her. Or she'll be
Right,
going, no,
but more
no,
importantly, she's there to be shot at because they all believe that Labour's going to run a savvy here.
yeah,
So she's there to take the brunt of it. So it's
yeah,
pretty brave of her,
yeah, well,
you know. I mean, remember the election after the referendum when the SNP swept the board, they Ruth Davies on, man, she took pelters.
well, the place that I want, Nicola Sturgeon, as his leader of the SNP, stood up where blooming John Swinney's doing, right? Simple as that. I believe that she was the best leader we had. Simple as that.
Aye, right. Now it's time for a history lesson for Anna Sarwar, David. This one's a cracker.
Yes, it is
Anna
just a bit.
Sarwar claims in the press recently, as SNP, as a Labour hoped to take a swathe of the SNP support,
Yes,
that the reason that people voted yes in 2014 was because they didn't believe Labour could win and they were in for a Tory future. The problem with that Mr. Anna Sarwar seems to forget, is we didn't have a Conservative government in 2014. We had a Conservative Liberal Democrat coalition government because at the election in 2011, the country couldn't decide on whether they wanted Ed Miliband or David Cameron, so it was a hung parliament.
yes, that's right.
Sorry, Gordon Brown, or was it not Gordon
No,
Brown?
it was David Cameron or Miliband.
Miliband. And
That's
the Labour
that's
offered the Lib Dems a
yeah.
coalition,
That was
and
that
they
was
said
your
no.
hung, that was your hung parliament, and they went. No, sorry, that was 2015. The hung parliament took place, right? So 2015, that was the hung parliament, and what happened was, I was listening at the door.
No,
Uh, yeah,
the Lib Dem Tory coalition came first, and then Cameron won his landslide in 2015.
yeah,
Won his majority, sorry, in 2015, and that's what brought about the Brexit referendum. So Sarwar saying that the reason why the people of Scotland voted yes was because they didn't think Labour would ever be in power again,
yeah.
and it would be Tory in perpetuity. He was wrong,
Yeah.
because at the time we didn't have a Conservative government, we had a coalition government. Now, the Labour Party offered to get into coalition with the Lib Dems and they said no. And then Cameron offered to get into coalition with them and they said aye.
Yeah.
And that's when the Lib Dems threw away their commitment to get rid of tuition fees in England. At that time, they were only 3,000. But under that wee smarmy ginger-headed fuck who became the Deputy Prime Minister, the one from Scotland, what was his name again? Ended up in the Treasury and the Lords. Somebody stick it in the comments. Anyway, they then went and suggested they put tuition fees in England up to £9,000.
Yeah.
But the point is,
You're
Sarwar
you're
trying to claim
you're
that people
you're on
yes.
you're on about Nick, aren't you?
No, Rick Clegg, he was a deputy. I'm talking about one who worked in the Treasury, the wee Scots guy.
Oh, Treasury. Oh, blooming heck. Aye, mean him. He was the one that got an extra 10p off the fuel charge, the hydrocarbon tax,
Danny
in
Alexander,
the in the in
ex-minister.
the in the Highlands and Islands.
Aye.
And what happened was
The
that
retailers put the
the
price up.
wholesalers just put 10p on the price.
Douglas Alexander will get him.
That was it. Douglas Alexander, the
Anyway,
man
he
that's
ended up in the
famous
Lords.
for giving the fuel wholesalers an extra 10p per litre. How's with that, eh?
But as I say, Anna Sarwar claiming that people voted yes because they didn't think there'd ever be a Labour government again was absolute nonsense, because at that time the UK couldn't decide on Tory or Labour, so that's
Yeah,
how we ended up with a coalition government.
yeah.
So this idea that people voted yes because they didn't think Labour would ever be in power and that it would be under Tory rule in Westminster forever. Well, it turned out his predictions right, because we've got the red Tories now going to come into power.
Aye. Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
Right, we've got an argument between whether it was Danny Alexander or Douglas Alexander. It was Alexander something anyway, so we'll leave it at that. So
No,
it was that
no,
inconsequential.
David, it's quite right. Danny Alexander was his name.
Well, I'm not getting into whether it was Danny or Douglas, but
Yeah.
either way,
Yeah.
he was a snake in the grass,
Oh, he was.
and
Oh,
he
definitely.
was one of the members of the Treasury who decided to increase tuition fees from 3,000 per semester in England to 9,000, a £6,000 rise,
Yeah.
betraying his party and condemning the Lib Dems to where they are politically today.
Well, now, David, because of that situation, you've got a choice. You can either vote, it's down in England, you can either vote for one of the duopoly, the Labour or Tory, or you can vote for the Take a Chance party, which is if you vote for Lib Dem, you'll maybe get a chance of your vote could go to Labour or it could go to Conservative.
But the point with Anna Sarr was saying is he's being dishonest to himself, he's been dishonest to the people, he's been given a platform to spout this shite. And why? Why did the people who were publishing this article have no point to do the flaws in the article?
Yeah, but that's the whole point of Anna Sarwar. All he wants to do is shitstir, because I believe that in Scotland, his time's numbered. Even though his party might do well down in the House of Commons, I don't think Sarwar will last it, because the amount of like fights he's had with Starmer. Yeah.
Possibly. So, right, listen, we really need to speed this up, David, because a lot of important things still to talk about.
Okay.
Now, as we know, the march to the right continues across Europe.
Yep.
Now, we did the final day of the European elections yesterday, and it would appear that the right done well.
Yeah.
The centre or left or centre managed to hold them off, but they have advanced. They have advanced so much that Macron has called a snap election in France.
Yeah.
You know, and as you know, in Germany and Austria, the right wing have made advances as well, and you've got Hungary with what's his name over there, the nut job in Hungary.
Yeah.
And that's Viktor Orban.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Hungary have always been an ultra right wing. Anyway, they've been ultra right wing going back a few years now. So
yep. So advances were made by the right, and by the way, the surprising ones went backwards in Poland, but in the Netherlands, in France, in Germany, in Austria, and Hungary, the right have all made advances.
All big chunks of Europe.
Yep.
But the most important thing to remember when you think about the EU, don't think about it as being a democratic parliament. Think of it as being a buying club. That's what it's like. It's like a place where people can trade with each other without any of the normal taxes that they would have to charge each other for doing trade in their country, right? So that's the way to think about the EU. The EU isn't a way whereby there's going to be a president who's going to say that you're all going to go to school at 8 o'clock in the morning now, right? That's not going to happen. The EU is to do with trade. Keep that in your heads. David, you've gone still.
Media says Albert all the way, even going to help the campaign. It's your time to waste, Glasgow. What's just going to happen is the independence vote's been split and it's been kicked down the line. Simple as that. But we're moved on for the Scottish section of the show. So the march to the right in Europe continues, and as we know, the march to the right in the UK has been going on since Corbyn was ousted.
Yeah.
So the UK is no immune to it. It's part of it. America's part of it. It would appear as the West goes into decline, they move further and further to the right.
Well, we've seen the UK move to the right. And at the end of this election, are we going to see a Labour Party that pulls the Parliament so far to the right that people go, what the hell is this? because they're not seen at the moment. They don't seem to be seen at the moment.
No, they don't. Even as their human rights are being ebbed away.
Yeah. Crazy, man. Absolutely
And
crazy.
they're asking for it. They're
Yeah.
voting for it.
Yeah.
I mean, the right to protest being suppressed in England is huge news.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, the draconian laws introduced under the National Security Bill,
Yeah.
where they can recruit your children to spy on you
Yeah.
for 12-year-old onwards.
They've not done it yet, or I don't think they have. But if the law is there, if the ability is there to do it, who's going to be the first to do it? Huh?
The Labour Party.
Yeah. Are we going to have brown shirt Labour supporters?
I don't know, but what we do know is that when it comes to his pledges, one of them was public order. I didn't know public order or clamping down on civil disobedience or whatever he called it. You know, I haven't got the pledges there. I put that iPad away. There's 6 pledges. The one where he said he was going to
No, but David, the difference is what he sees, what he perceives to be civil disobedience is just 100,000 people in the street. That might not be civil disobedience. That might be perfectly calm. Yeah.
legitimate protest, yes.
Legitimate protest, as we've actually seen with the Gaza protests, Palestine protests, right? Nobody's ever been in a punch up. The only people that have been in a punch up have been Tommy Robson and his mates.
Aye, matters.
Yeah.
See, but the right is still on the marches. As the West goes into decline, David, we are seeing the right wing coming in more and more.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, and people don't see this on a geopolitical level, but you and I have been talking about the rise of the BRICS.
To be honest with you, David, I'm an old git. I've actually seen right the way through from Harold Wilson, right the way through to today, right? So I've seen both sides. I've seen Maggie Thatcher at her worst, right? There's a lot of people alive today and are voting now that don't remember Maggie Thatcher and what she did to the people of Scotland.
Right, we better move on to the other big stooshy down that road, shall we?
Yeah.
Sunak shows he's not fit for public office with D-Day disaster. Dun, dun, dun. Oof.
Yeah.
What am up at?
Well, the question on TV last night, as far as I heard, was is Sunak going to be available and supporting the party all the way through to the actual general election? And the who was it? Was one of the leader offs inside the party had to actually go on TV and say, oh, yeah, he'll be there. Not Sunak. It should have been Sunak that was defending himself again. Of course I'll be there. Right?
But the point is, David, I mean, for the Prime Minister to quit the D-Day commemorations are actually, I mean, you know how I feel about these things. These people glorify war rather than commemorate it in a very dignified way.
David,
the way we should commemorate these things is a past horror, and let's not hope it happens again.
Yeah, all right. But the thing is, though, we should be looking at it from the point of view of he should have been there. He should have just been there. It's a matter of just like taking part in the thing, right? That mattered to some people. That some of his voters should have been there for that reason. Simple as that.
That's the all his voters. They're all elderly.
Yeah.
Well,
That's right.
as I say, I mean, I'm not a big fan of these things because they tend to glorify them.
Yeah.
But these commemorations should be somber and they should be marked. But as I say, this couple of days of celebration of 80 years of D-Day. I mean, there's big bands and
wasn't this something that we had to do within the 2014 referendum? They were trying to celebrate something then. What was it? It was the start of, it was a 1914-18 war, wasn't it? It was the First World War. It was the beginning of the war in the 1914 because it was 2014. It was 100 years.
Aye.
And we were trying to say to him, you don't commemorate the beginning of a war or the
That's
beginning
correct.
of an action. You
Yes.
commemorate the end of it when peace is taken over. And now we've got a situation where they are commemorating the D-Day, which was the beginning of an action, not when peace was eventually brought in.
That's what I mean about these things being incorrectly conducted. It's a glorification of, as opposed to commemoration of an atrocity should never be repeated.
Yeah,
You know,
agreed. Yeah,
as I say, but for Sunak to be daft enough to walk away in the middle of these things and leave David
yeah,
Cameron to hold the baby,
yeah.
well, he jumped on a flight back to the UK to conduct a TV interview, showed an extreme lack of respect for the last of the voters who still vote on his side.
Well, you know, you had a situation there where one of the old vets, American vets, 104 years of age, he got married to his sweetheart. They were both their partners had died, and they must have been together beforehand. She was 96 and he was 104. They got married at the D-Days celebrations or whatever, right? And what should happen? The hotel they were in walked uh, genocide Joe Biden, and the French president, right? And they both gave speeches at the wedding, which was good. And it would bring a tear to a glass eye. These two old people getting married, right? And it's like Cameron should have been there. Cameron should have been there just for the mere fact he was one of the 3 or 4 countries that took part in the D-Day thing. Yeah, okay. Came from Britain. It all came from Britain. Cameron should have been there.
Right, got a letter. I got a letter from SNP today. Indy will be page 1, line 1 of Manifesto as promised. They say it better be.
Aye.
I'm already pissed at John.
Yeah, has to be.
And I don't know where John thinks he's getting off, but there will be words exchanged about this.
Aye.
And as I tell you all, going to your party convener, this is a problem which within the internal party mechanisms, and we have to sort it within the party. We cannot have the leadership override the membership.
That's right.
Right,
Anyway,
so
right.
we've covered
Let's go on to the next one.
We've covered the D-Day disaster for the Tories.
Yeah.
Manifestos are about to land for all the parties.
Are we mention of commiseration for Mrs. Morley over the death of Dr. Michael Mosley? Sorry, Dr. Michael Mosley. So are we note of commiseration for or the
What, you want to
best
fucking put Taylor Swift in an oil, pal?
Right, okay. Don't bother with Taylor Swift. I'm more interested in this guy because he was a doctor. You know, he helped a lot of people. You know.
Doctors die the same as anybody else. Apparently, he was a TV personality. I don't know,
Yes,
David.
that's
You know, I
right.
was criticised on the thread after the show the other week because I don't watch mainline television. I have no idea who the guy is.
Anyway, next.
Next.
Ian Gribben.
No, we're still on manifestos. And I
Oh,
want to specifically look at the Green Manifesto launch here in Scotland, where Lorna Slater tells the voters here in Scotland that she will tax the super wealthy and she will tax the oil companies. And the Greens treating the people of Scotland like fucking idiots. Since when did tax on the super wealthy become devolved? Since when did oil tax become devolved? Hello, Patrick, Lorna, are you off your meds? Because one of you is definitely off your fucking heads. Anyway, folks, manifestos are about to be launched left, right, and centre. Make sure you read them.
yes.
David and I will be covering them. Okay.
Most important one I'll be looking at,
Is
obviously,
the
is
SNP one.
SNP. That's it. Because if the SNP manifesto does not say what I think it should say, then
What
I'm
did they
sorry,
say
but
about that person who just made the comment in the comments saying, you know, that it's line 1, page 1?
yeah,
Apparently, they've got a letter today telling them that's what it'll be. I can imagine that this is the party taking real action after John did what he did. But let's move on. The Reform UK candidate says that the UK should have had a neutral attitude towards Hitler and stayed out the Second World War. Boy, that's what happens when you are, and we're talking a couple of days after D-Day, where everybody talks about the rights that our parents and grandparents fought to make sure we have the day. That'll be the rights that the Tory party have been lynching fucking away for the English people, eh? With their Police Crimes Courts and Sentencing Act, their Immigration Act, their Homeland Security bills, all that shite. That'll be all these human rights that your grandparents fought for, that the fucking Tory party and apparently Labour are going to continue to ebb away. But here, this is how brave the right are getting, that they're actually be able to stand up on fucking D-Day or a couple of days after it and say, we should have stayed neutral in the war.
Well, no, in actual fact, I've got to say it, like history lesson, here we go, right? Before Hitler went in and dominated and ran over all of Europe, yeah, right the way down to the south of France and all the rest of it, right? He went about getting friend agreements, like if you like, not trade agreements, but like military agreements, that he was going to be their friend, right? We're talking about Holland, Denmark,
Hungary,
all the rest of it, right? And it's like they all signed up. They all signed up.
And then they all get paid.
And had he been in that one of their governments, he'd have signed up quite happily. Yeah. Until he's actually saw the blitzkrieg coming. Yeah.
For me, it just shows you how far to the right we've got when people feel emboldened to say such things.
Yeah, it's just stupid. It's just idiotic, and it's people that pay no mind to actual history.
Right,
and
we'll
what
go
really
so we'll
happened.
Get up to Israel and Gaza and then across to the Ukraine. Now, Israel, buoyed by a horseshoe rescue. Biden and Blinken in the Middle East to sell Gaza ceasefire deal.
Yeah.
Which, as you know, David, over the weekend, Sunday there, Benny Gantz, who was in
Benny Gantz, yeah.
Netanyahu, has withdrawn.
Gantz. Don't try and search for it with Ganz. You'll get the wrong thing. It's Gantz. He was an IDF colonel, I think he was.
I was a general, and he was a leader of the
general. Sorry, and then he left that and he became a politician. And here's the most important thing, the most important inside thing that David and I can possibly tell you from doing a bit of research on it, is that what chance do I get when I've got all this going on?
The door's gone. Hey, concentrate, dear boy.
Hang on, I can't.
Sit back.
Madam Director, what are you doing down there?
Oh, she's blooming.
Now remember, this is a family show.
Right, away. Grab it and go. Right, there we go.
The bin man.
I know. The guy that cleans the bloody bins. Anyway, right.
You know, we just have to deal with these instructions. Anyway, Gantz.
What Gantz wanted was, he wanted Netanyahu to have a plan together to replace Hamas. Now, what you might not know is that Hamas is a political party that was started by the Israeli government and actually paid for by the Israeli government. So you can read into that what you want. But what Gantz wanted was, he wanted Netanyahu to have a plan together to replace the party Hamas.
So basically what Gantz is pissed off about is that Israel hasn't put the new leaders of Gaza in place yet.
Correct. Absolutely, right? So you can read into that anything you want, but I've got to say, see the 7th of October? It stinks to fucking high heaven.
Well, anyway, David, it could lead to the fridge. No, it could, as the BBC headlines, it could lead to the collapse of the Israeli government.
Aye.
And a ceasefire wouldn't suit Netanyahu either, because then he would need to hold elections, and he's up in corruption. And
Yeah,
of course, to the other side, the Hamas leaders, right?
yeah.
You know, if they capitulate as well, they could well be exterminated with their own people.
Aye.
So
Yep.
it's a rock and a hard place for both Netanyahu and the Hamas leaders. You know,
Netanyahu is being forced to put in place a ceasefire. He does not want a ceasefire because if he has a ceasefire, he ends up in jail.
right?
Or maybe worse. Maybe
And
worse
he
than that.
can't, as we've already discussed, David, he can't flee anywhere because he'd need to go to a country that's not signed up with the ICC or the ICJ,
Yeah.
and they're quite thin on the ground. I don't know if he
To be honest with you,
fancies
David. To be honest with you, David, I don't think he'd get that far. I think he's safe when he's inside that parliament or the movements that he makes with a lot of armed people round about him as he's moving, right? But if he tries to get out of the country and away and all the rest of it, I don't think he'd get that far.
But at the same time, David, as we know, Biden's penned a resolution to put in front of the Security Council.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as nobody vetoes it, there'll be a demand for a ceasefire.
Well, okay, so let's extrapolate that just a wee bit more, right? Let's say that ceasefire ends up turning into a proper end of everything, right? And then in come the Americans, us, the Brits, French, you name it, and all the rest of it, to try and discuss what's going to be the future of all this, right? Do you honestly see a two-state solution taking place? I don't, right?
I don't think
Do
that
you,
far ahead. I just want a bloodshed to
no,
stop.
no, but do you honestly see the thing with the Red Sea and a new Suez Canal Mark II, we'll call it, taking place? Yeah, I do see that taking
If
place.
there's a two-state solution and they can work with each other, then yes. But otherwise, no. David, I'm just wanting the bloodshed to stop. As you
Yes,
know, as a
right, sir. Yeah,
humanitarian,
same here. I
as
sign
a
up to that. I'll sign
I've
anywhere you
been
want for
telling
that.
you, as a
But
humanitarian, we've been telling people here that this population's got very little time left. But we're not talking about the total destruction of people alive in Gaza right now. The famine that's being imposed upon these people, that sort of starvation means that the people who do survive, the females, will
you've
most
killed them
likely
already.
be infertile.
Yeah.
We've seen that after the Irish famine. We've seen it in the African famines.
We saw
Population
it,
beginning to decline
saw it
because
from when I
of
was a
illnesses and
kid.
things like that.
Biafra. Do you remember Biafra?
Yes.
Was the first televised time when people were dying of starvation.
Yep.
The babies with the big bellies and all the rest of it.
Right.
Because what they were doing was they were eating stuff that had no
Nutritional
food
value.
value whatsoever, right? And it was just making them blow up, right? That was dreadful. That was absolutely
As I
dreadful.
say, but as we know and history tells us and medical studies show that people who have suffered that level of starvation, their bodies never truly recover. And one of the main things that comes out of it is that the female population become infertile.
Yes.
The amount
Yes.
of children born to that population diminishes. You know, so that when we talk about the destruction of the Gazan people, we're not just talking about the bombs and the blood. We're talking about this famine, making sure that it's never going to grow or prosper again.
Yeah.
Whatever survives isn't going to be fertile enough to grow and prosper. That's what we talk about when we
Can
talk.
I just answer Hashbury Stumble that's at the top of the list again? You bring it up, please. My real surname, there you are, has Muslim, Jewish, and Irish roots. Listen, son, or dear, I don't give a fuck what you are
Don't be
or
rude to
where
the
you
audience.
come from.
Remember, they talk to other people in the chat.
What I'm interested in is where you're going to, what you stand for now, what you want. Do you want
David, you haven't got to
bloodshed?
give me this idea. You haven't got to give me this idea, but believe it or not, while you and I are chatting, in the comments they're talking to each other.
Aye. Oh, all right. Okay.
Yeah, you're picking up his comment and going, hey, I don't give a fuck about that. But listen, he's not talking to you, he's talking to somebody else. I think he's talking to somebody called Glasgow Media who's been a bit of pain.
Anyway.
Right, anyway, moving on to Ukraine. Boy, Chris,
Yes.
Putin's getting pretty ballsy, you know.
Aye, but
Putin wants his defence
we've got the Ukraine managed to knock one of Russia's super spy planes or it's one of these ones that's can't be spotted by radar or anything like that at all, and they knocked it out of the sky with a drone. Okay, I don't think it's the kind of drone that I would go to the bars and buy, right? And it would go, it's about yon size, and up it goes with propellers. But anyway, they knocked it out of the sky with a
David.
drone.
And hitting
Right.
one fucking airport is not as interesting as Putin telling the rest of the world, by the way, Europe's defenceless at this point in time. Come in and plunder it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
and Putin is getting pretty ballsy. And then, of course, you've got Biden apologising to the Ukrainian people for the delay in military aid. But it wasn't Biden that was holding it up. It was the rest of the government in America. Biden, in his D-Day speech, linked Ukraine war to the Second World War.
Yeah.
And apparently some French guy's been arrested for spying.
Right.
And as we already know, Putin's threatening to give the enemies of the West weapons. And that's confident Putin warns Europe is defenceless as an extension of that earlier statement that he's quite happy to give weapons to Iran or anybody that wants to cause havoc here in the West. So Putin's becoming more and more confident. The Russian economy's blooming, thanks to the BRICS. And things are not going that well.
Right. That's right.
And he's really ripping the piss out of NATO in the West. He's pointing out that the West is in decline and they are defenceless at this point.
Any word on whether that big pipeline in the bottom of the sea has been sealed up?
No, it's not.
Switched off.
It's not in America's interest for that pipe to be fixed. Nord Stream 2.
Yeah.
Or Nord Stream 1.
That's right. Well, it was either America, Britain, or Norway that did it.
Well, you can see the advantage to these places. They're oil and gas producers. Right, David. We're 7 minutes out and I've got work to go to.
And think about the admins as well, right?
Aye, and think
So,
folks, we hope you found today's show entertaining. We hope you found it informative. Keep your eyes on the prize.
Yeah.
The only way to advance the cause is to vote SNP. Now, the problems internally within the party, that's up to us, the membership, to sort out. Okay.
And we will sort it. I mean it. We will.
That means Neil, expect a phone call. That means John, expect a phone call. Party convener, air shots, expect a fucking phone call.
Yeah.
Right. As I say, if you like the day, please hit the like button. Please hit the share button. Once again, at the peak, we had nearly 250 people watching live between the two platforms. That's fantastic. Thank you very much. Now, folks, I'm going to make a wee appeal to you. The food bank fund's getting low because we've not got super chats on at the moment. So if you can afford to stick a couple of quid into the pot, there is a bank detail links on the video description.
Yep. And also there's a QR code as well on the top of the screen if you look.
So, what do you call it? Obviously, once David's fit enough to get up into his man shed, we'll sort this out. But at this point in time, he's no. But if you can help, folks, the funds are getting low and the need is as bad as ever. Right. Now, share across your social media, hit the like. I just lose one thing left today. Oh, subscribe, please.
Subscribe, please, aye. And hit the like button if you like us. If you don't like us, our name is Anasawa and Dross. So, bye, Davey. Bye, guys.
Listen, never mind. Bye. You ever come away with a stunt like that again? You're I'm going to put you off air. See you later, guys. Bye the